Their eyes met in the mirrored elevator wall, and Aisha forgot how to breathe. Leon Kang didn't pause. The woman pressed against him, her lips moving over his like a fire she couldn't contain. And then his gaze shifted. Dark, sharp, all-consuming, locked on her reflection. Aisha's knees buckled. He was every warning her mother ever gave about men rolled into one lethal, mesmerizing force. Jaw carved like stone, tailored suit clinging to power and danger. And he was staring at her, like she was the only thing in the world that mattered. Her heart screamed run, but her feet refused. She could smell him, expensive cologne mixed with the raw heat of desire, intoxicating and impossible to ignore. Every gasp, every movement in that elevator felt like a shock through her veins. The blonde woman moaned softly, completely unaware that his attention had shifted entirely. His hand was still tangled in her hair, his mouth still trailing her neck, but those eyes belonged only to Aisha. Then reality hit. The door dinged, and Aisha's panic won. She spun around and bolted, heels clicking, bags flying, heart hammering like a drum in her chest. But Kang didn't move fast, didn't shout, didn't panic. He just watched her flee, a slow, calculating smirk crossing his face. She had run into the wrong elevator and into the wrong man. Want to see what happens when Seoul's most dangerous man decides you're his? Hit subscribe and turn on notifications because this story is about to get intense. The stairwell door slammed behind her with a bang that echoed through her entire body. 7 floors down. Her hands gripped the railing, knuckles white, taking stairs 2 at a time. Her work bag bounced against her hip with each frantic step. God, no, 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 she whispered between gasps. Please make him forget my face. But she knew, even as the prayer left her lips, it was useless. Men like Leon Kang didn't forget anything, and the way he'd looked at her, that intensity, that focus, it wasn't the look of a man who would simply move on. It was the look of a hunter who'd just found prey worth chasing. When she burst through the ground floor service entrance, Aisha collapsed against the wall, her entire body shaking. Sweat dampened her uniform despite the building's frigid air conditioning. Her reflection in the small mirror by the employee lockers showed a woman coming undone, eyes wide with terror, chest heaving like she'd run a marathon. She pressed her palms against her burning cheeks, trying to ground herself in something real. He didn't know who she was. The Grand Seoul employed over 300 people. She was just another face, another uniform. Invisible. Safe in her invisibility. Except, she wasn't invisible anymore. Not to him. Across the city, in an office that overlooked Seoul like a king surveying his kingdom, Leon Kang stood at floor-to-ceiling windows and smiled. The blonde woman from the elevator had left 10 minutes ago, dismissed with practiced politeness and a car service home. She'd been beautiful, willing, completely forgettable, everything that usually satisfied him for an evening. But that woman in the elevator, that terrified, gorgeous woman who'd looked at him like he was both salvation and destruction, she was anything but forgettable. His assistant Minho appeared in the doorway, tablet glowing. Sir, about the Inshan shipment. Later. Leon didn't turn from the window. I need you to find someone first. Find someone, sir? The woman from the elevator. Black woman, late 20s, about 5'6", hotel uniform. She knew who I was. The fear in her eyes wasn't confusion. It was recognition. Minho's fingers moved across his tablet. That narrows it considerably. There are only 12 black female employees at the Grand Seoul. I can have a complete list within the hour. Morning, Leon corrected, his voice quiet but absolute. I want to know everything by morning. Where she lives, where she's from, how long she's been in Seoul, who she talks to, what keeps her awake at night. Sir. Minho hesitated, something he rarely risked. If I may ask, why the interest? She witnessed something, yes, but nothing that compromises security. Shouldn't we just monitor her for silence and move on? Leon finally turned from the window, and the look in his eyes made Minho take an involuntary step back. She ran, Minho. Everyone else either runs toward me hunting favors or they freeze like prey. She chose a third option. She saw danger and she fled from it, which means she has survival instincts. That makes her smart. And smart women are dangerously rare in my world. Understood, sir? And Minho, be thorough. I don't want surveillance reports. I want to understand her. What drives her? What terrifies her? What she wants that she thinks she can't have. After Minho left, Leon poured expensive whiskey that burned perfectly on the way down. He wasn't a man prone to impulse. Everything in his life was calculated, measured, controlled with ruthless precision. His empire had been built on the foundation of never acting on emotion, never letting desire cloud judgment. But something about that moment in the elevator had cracked through his carefully maintained control. The way her eyes had widened in the mirror, the way her breath had caught, visible even from across the small space. The way she'd looked at him like he was the most dangerous thing she'd ever encountered. Which was probably true. He'd felt it. That spark. That current of raw electricity that had nothing to do with the blonde woman in his arms and everything to do with the stranger watching them. Chemistry. Undeniable and instant. The kind that made smart people do catastrophically stupid things. His phone buzzed. His sister. Mother says you're being reckless. What did you do now? Leon smiled and typed back. Nothing. Yet. But he would. Because Leon Kang had learned long ago that hesitation was how you lost in this world. You saw something you wanted. You took it. You identified an opportunity. You seized it. And this woman, though he didn't know her name yet, was both. His phone lit up again. Minho. Found her. Aisha Williams, Nigerian-American. Been in Seoul 14 months. Working housekeeping full-time. Sends money home monthly. And sir, her visa expired 2 months ago. Leon's smile widened. There it was. The leverage. The connection. The way in. An expired visa meant she was already living on the edge. Already breaking the law. Already vulnerable in ways she probably lost sleep over. It meant she needed help. Whether she knew it yet or not. And Leon Kang specialized in being exactly what people needed right when they needed it most. He typed back, address? The response came immediately with a location in Itaewon. A modest neighborhood. Not expensive, not cheap. The kind of place where someone trying to stay invisible would live. Don't approach her yet, Leon added. Just watch. I want to know her routine, who she talks to, where she goes. Everything. He set his phone down and returned his gaze to the city lights sprawling beneath him. Tomorrow he'd have a complete picture of Aisha Williams's life. Her struggles, her secrets, her fears, her dreams. And then he'd make his move. In her tiny studio apartment in Itaewon, Aisha knelt on her prayer mat, hands clasped so tightly they trembled. The words wouldn't come. Usually prayer flowed naturally, the way her mother had taught her in Lagos, the way her Aunt Rose reinforced every Sunday at New Life Christian Church. But tonight, all she could see was him, Leon Kang. The way his gaze had pinned her through that mirror like a butterfly to a board. The casual possession in how he'd touched that woman, the dangerous grace in every movement. She'd heard the whispers at work, hushed conversations about the man who owned half of Seoul's underground, who made people disappear when they became problems, and she'd locked eyes with him while he was kissing someone else. Lord, please, she finally whispered, voice breaking. Please let him forget. Please let tomorrow be normal. Please protect me from whatever this is. Her phone glowed with a message from Aunt Rose. Elder Park asked about you again at prayer meeting. He's a good man, Aisha. Stable. Godly. A deacon with a government job. You should give him a real chance. Aisha's stomach twisted into knots. Elder Park was 53, balding, and looked at her with possessive hunger that had nothing to do with God and everything to do with wanting to own something young and exotic. Her aunt saw respectability and stability. Aisha saw another cage, another life of being owned and controlled and told what to think and feel. She typed back, "I have to work this weekend, maybe next time." The lie came, easily after months of practice. Her aunt thought she did missionary work for another church in Itaewon, helping new immigrants adjust to Korean life. The truth, that she cleaned hotel rooms for cash under the table with an expired visa tucked away like a shameful secret, would horrify the woman who'd helped raise her after her parents died. Aisha changed into pajamas and climbed into bed, but sleep was impossible. Every time she closed her eyes, she was back in that elevator. Back in that moment when Leon Kang's eyes had found hers, and the entire world had narrowed to just that connection. Dangerous, electric, impossible to ignore or forget. "He's everything I should run from," she told the darkness pressing in around her. "Everything Aunt Rose warned me about. Violence and sin and corruption wrapped in an expensive suit. But why did it feel like he was looking at me like no one ever has?" The thought came unbidden, shameful, thrilling in ways that made her chest tight. She'd been looked at before. By Elder Park with his presumptuous interest and wandering eyes. By men at the hotel who saw her skin and made assumptions about what she'd do for money. By her aunt with disappointment that Aisha wasn't more grateful for being saved from a life in Lagos. But Leon Kang had looked at her like she was a mystery worth solving, like she mattered in a way that had nothing to do with what she could do for him or who she should be for others. Like she was actually seen. "It's just fear," she whispered to herself in the darkness. "Just adrenaline making you feel things that aren't real. It doesn't mean anything." But even as she said it, she knew she was lying. Morning came too quickly. Aisha dressed in her uniform with mechanical precision, each movement rehearsed from months of routine. White blouse, black skirt, sensible shoes that killed her feet but met hotel standards, hair pulled into a tight bun that her aunt would approve of, minimal makeup. The woman in the mirror looked tired but ordinary, and ordinary was exactly what she needed to be today. The Grand Seoul lobby buzzed with its usual morning chaos when she arrived. Tourists dragging oversized suitcases, business people barking into phones in 3 different languages, delivery personnel wheeling in massive arrangements of fresh flowers. Aisha kept her head down and headed straight for the service elevator, the employee one that guests never saw. She spent 2 hours cleaning rooms on the 20th floor, losing herself in the familiar rhythm that had become meditation. Strip beds, wipe surfaces, vacuum carpets, replace towels with military precision. Each room told a story if you paid attention. Rumpled sheets suggesting passion or restless sleep. Empty champagne bottles celebrating something worth remembering. Sometimes pill bottles left carelessly on nightstands, speaking of pain hidden behind professional smiles and tourist excitement. By 11, she'd almost convinced herself that last night had been a fluke. A strange, terrifying moment that would fade into just another weird memory of her time in Seoul. Something to laugh about years from now when she was safely back home. Then she returned to the service area to restock her cart. A coffee cup sat on her supply shelf, still warm, from the expensive boutique cafe 3 blocks away that she'd never entered because a single cup cost more than her entire daily food budget. Her name was written on the side in elegant Korean characters that looked like art. Aisha's hands shook as she picked it up. Around her, other housekeepers moved through their routines, nobody noticing anything unusual. She searched faces frantically, looking for whoever had left it, but saw only familiar colleagues doing familiar tasks like this was just another normal Tuesday. She should throw it away. Report it to security. Do anything except bring it to her lips and take a tentative sip. It was perfect. Exactly how she liked it. Vanilla with no sugar, the temperature just cool enough to drink immediately. But she'd never told anyone her coffee preferences. Never ordered from that cafe. Never discussed it with coworkers during their smoke breaks she didn't participate in. Unless someone had been watching. Unless someone had seen her pause outside that cafe window every morning on her walk to work, had noticed which drinks she looked at longest on the glossy menu board. Unless someone had been paying very, very close attention to details she thought were private. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. Unknown number. Do you like the coffee? Aisha's heart stopped. Then started again, pounding so violently. Against her ribs she thought everyone around her must hear it like a drum. Her fingers trembled as she typed, "Who is this?" 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. "You know who this is, Aisha." He knew her name. Of course he knew her name. Men like Leon Kang knew everything, could find out anything. But seeing it spelled out on her screen, knowing he'd taken the time to discover who she was, made it real in a way that absolutely terrified her. "Leave me alone," she typed, immediately regretting it the second she hit send. "You didn't tell men like him what to do. You didn't engage at all." His response came instantly. "I could. But then, who would help with your visa situation?" The world tilted sideways. Her visa. The secret she'd kept from everyone. The illegal status that kept her awake at 3 in the morning. The expiration date 2 months past that made her jump every time she saw police uniforms. How did he know? How could he possibly know? "I don't know what you're talking about," she typed with shaking fingers that could barely hit the right letters. Aisha Williams. Nigerian passport. Arrived Seoul January 15th last year on a tourist visa. Extended once to 6 months. Should have left by July. Didn't. Been working cash under the table ever since. Your managers think your papers are fine because someone in HR is lazy and never followed up properly. But immigration isn't so careless. 3 deportations this month alone from this district. Her legs gave out completely. She sat down hard on a supply crate, coffee forgotten, world spinning like she might actually pass out. This wasn't happening. Couldn't be happening. How did he have this information? How did he know things that even her employers didn't know? Things she'd buried so deep she sometimes pretended they weren't real. The phone rang. Same unknown number. She stared at it for 4 long rings before answering, saying nothing, barely breathing. "Hello, Aisha." His voice was smooth, cultured, with an accent suggesting expensive international schools and a childhood spent in multiple countries. "I'm not trying to scare you. Well, not too much anyway. What do you want?" Her voice came out steadier than she felt, which was something at least. "To talk. Just talk. There's a cafe 2 blocks from the hotel. Bora's tea room. Meet me there at 3. I work at 3. Not anymore. I spoke with your manager this morning. You have a break from 3 to 4 today. Paid, if that matters." The audacity stole her breath completely. "You can't just rearrange my schedule like I'm a chess piece." "I already did." A pause, weighted with meaning she couldn't quite decipher. "Aisha, you walked into something you shouldn't have seen last night. That makes you either a liability or an opportunity. I'm giving you the chance to be the latter. Trust me when I say you desperately want to be the latter. And if I don't come, then I do nothing. Don't help with your visa problem. Don't make your troubles disappear like they never existed. Just let nature take its course. How long do you think you have before immigration catches up? A month? 2 weeks?" His voice dropped lower, intimate and dangerous in equal measure. "I could have you on a plane back to Lagos by tonight if I wanted, but I don't want that. So come to the cafe, drink tea with me, talk. Then decide what kind of trouble you prefer to be in." The line went dead before she could respond. Aisha sat frozen, coffee growing cold in her trembling hand. Around her, life at the Grand Seoul continued its normal rhythm. People cleaning rooms, restocking supplies, gossiping about difficult guests and upcoming holidays. Normal life. Safe life. The life she'd been clinging to desperately for months, despite knowing it could crumble at any moment. Leon Kang was offering to fix it. Or destroy it. She wasn't entirely sure which terrified her more. Her phone buzzed again. Aunt Rose. Don't forget Sunday service. Elder Park specifically asked if you'd be there. He wants to discuss something important with you after the sermon. Aisha's jaw clenched so hard her teeth ached. Elder Park wanted to discuss marriage. He'd been hinting for weeks, always in front of her aunt, using scripture to justify why Aisha should seriously consider him. He was stable, godly, appropriate, had a government job with a pension. Everything a good Christian woman should want in a husband. Everything that made Aisha want to run screaming into traffic. She looked at the coffee cup in her hand, at the phone displaying messages from two completely different worlds. One world represented safety, respectability, the suffocating cage of expectations she'd fled Lagos to escape. The other represented danger, possibility, the kind of choice that could either save her or destroy her so completely there'd be nothing left to save. At 2:55, Aisha stood outside Bora's tea room, watching her reflection in the spotless window. The woman looking back appeared calm, professional, ordinary. Nothing like the terrified girl who'd run from an elevator or the desperate woman considering meeting with Seoul's most dangerous man for tea. Like this was somehow normal. She could still walk away. Disappear into Seoul's 8 million anonymous souls. Take her chances with immigration. Maybe even marry Elder Park and live the safe, small life her aunt wanted for her. But she'd never been good at choosing safe. If she had been, she would have stayed in Lagos, married the man her parents chose before they died, lived a small, predictable life in her mother's house. Instead, she'd come to Seoul with dreams bigger than her bank account, stayed illegally when her visa expired, worked jobs her family would be ashamed of if they knew. Maybe she'd been running toward this exact moment all along. She pushed open the door and a small bell chimed overhead. The cafe was elegant in that understated way only truly expensive places achieved. Soft lighting that made everyone look beautiful, traditional Korean tea sets displayed like museum pieces, classical music playing just loud enough to create ambiance, but quiet enough to allow intimate conversation. And at a corner table, Leon Kang waited. Somehow both relaxed and alert, like a panther pretending to nap. He wore a dark blue suit that probably cost more than she made in 6 months, maybe a year. His eyes found hers immediately, and that same electric charge from the elevator shot through her body like lightning. In daylight, he was even more devastating. Sharp cheekbones that could cut glass, an expressive mouth that suggested both cruelty and tenderness, hands that looked equally capable of violence and unexpected gentleness. Aisha. He stood, pulled out her chair like this was a date instead of a negotiation between a mafia boss and a terrified woman with an expired visa. Thank you for coming. I wasn't entirely sure you would. You didn't give me much choice. She sat, clutching her purse in her lap like armor that might actually protect her from something. There's always a choice. He settled back into his seat, gestured to a server who appeared instantly like she'd been waiting for his signal. The question is whether we're brave enough to make the right one, or just the safe one. The tea arrived in seconds. Jasmine, delicate and fragrant enough to fill the small space between them. Aisha didn't touch it, didn't trust anything he offered, even something as innocent as tea. What do you want from me? She kept her voice low but firm. Direct. I like that. Leon poured tea for them both with practiced grace that spoke of expensive upbringing. Last night you saw something. Most people would either try to use it against me for leverage or run straight to authorities. You just ran. Why? Because I'm not stupid enough to play games with men like you. He laughed, genuinely pleased by her response. True, but incomplete. You ran because you're scared of me. Yes. But also because you have something to hide, something that makes you avoid official attention at absolutely all costs. You already know about my visa. Why pretend we're having a normal conversation? Because knowing facts about someone isn't the same as understanding them as a person. He leaned forward slightly, and she caught his scent again. Expensive and woodsy with undertones of something darker. I want to understand you, Aisha Williams. I want to know why an obviously intelligent, capable, resourceful woman is cleaning hotel rooms under false pretenses instead of doing literally anything else with her life. Maybe I like cleaning rooms. Maybe it's honest work. Maybe it is. Or maybe you're sending money to family back in Nigeria who depend on you. Maybe you're trying to build something here but can't do it legally because the system is specifically designed to keep people like you out. His eyes held hers with uncomfortable intensity. Maybe you're running from something dark in your past, or maybe you're running towards something bright in your future. I don't know yet, but I want to. Why? The question burst out before she could stop it. Why do you care? You're Leon Kang. You own half of Seoul. You could have any woman you want with a snap of your fingers. Why are you sitting here drinking tea with a broke hotel maid who saw something she shouldn't have? Because when I looked at you in that elevator, you looked back. He said it simply, like it explained everything. Not with worship or fear or cold calculation. You looked at me like I was a person who scared you, not a myth or a monster. Do you have any idea how rare that is in my world? So this is about your ego? About finding someone who isn't impressed by your reputation? This is about chemistry. He set down his cup with deliberate care. I felt something when our eyes met in that mirror. Something I haven't felt in years, maybe ever. And I think you felt it too, Aisha, or you wouldn't have run quite so desperately fast. Heat flooded Aisha's face, burning from her chest to her hairline. She wanted to deny it, throw her untouched tea in his perfectly composed face and storm out, dramatically. But lying to a man who'd already proven he could uncover her deepest secrets seemed not just pointless, but dangerous. Feeling something doesn't mean acting on it, she said carefully. I have responsibilities. Faith. An aunt who would disown me completely if she knew I was even sitting here with you right now. Elder Rose Williams, originally from Benin City, Nigeria, owns New Life Christian Church in Gangnam. She doesn't know you work at the hotel, thinks you're doing missionary work for another church in Taiwan, helping African immigrants adjust to Korean culture. His smile was gentle despite the invasive knowledge. You've been lying to her for over a year now. Shame crashed over Aisha like a physical wave. You have absolutely no right to dig into my life like this. No right at all. I have every right. You walked into my world, you saw me. That makes you mine now, whether you accept it or not. He paused, letting that sink in like poison. But Aisha, I'm not a monster despite what you've heard. I'm offering you a real choice. I can fix your visa situation. Completely, legally, permanently. I have people who handle these things, who know exactly which officials to talk to. In exchange for what? Her voice was hollow, defeated. She knew how this worked. Nothing was ever free, especially not help from men like him. In exchange for your time, dinner, conversation, let me get to know you properly. Let me show you I'm not just the monster you think I am. And if I say no? Leon's expression didn't change at all, but something shifted deep in his eyes. Something that reminded her exactly who she was dealing with, what he was capable of when people refused him. Then I still fix your visa. Consider it a gift with no strings attached. But Aisha, you'll wonder for the rest of your life what might have happened if you'd been brave enough to say yes. And that wondering will eat at you forever. Before she could formulate any response, the cafe door burst open violently. A man entered, tall and menacing, with visible tattoos creeping up his neck like dark vines. His eyes scanned the room with predatory focus, landed on Leon, narrowed with unmistakable hostility and challenge. Leon's entire posture changed instantly. The charming man across from her vanished completely, replaced by something cold and absolutely lethal. "Stay seated," he said quietly, never taking his eyes off the newcomer. "Don't move. Don't speak." The tattooed man approached their table with aggressive confidence, spoke rapid Korean that Aisha only partially understood. Something about territory being tested, about shipments and respect, and lines being crossed. Leon responded in the same rapid Korean, his tone deadly calm, but carrying an undercurrent of absolute authority that made the air feel heavy. Back and forth they went, voices never rising above conversational volume, but tension coiling tighter with each exchange like a spring about to snap. Other cafe patrons shifted uncomfortably, pretending desperately not to notice. The server disappeared into the back. Someone near the window stood up and left quickly. Then the tattooed man's hand moved deliberately toward his jacket. Leon was impossibly faster. In one fluid motion he stood, grabbed the man's wrist, twisted it at an angle that made the intruder gasp in genuine pain. He leaned in close, said something low and threatening in Korean that made every drop of color drain completely from the man's face. Then Leon released him with casual disdain, adjusted his own jacket with precise movements, and sat back down like nothing unusual had happened. "Leave now. Tell your boss I don't appreciate being interrupted during tea time, and tell him the Incheon shipment stays mine. This is not negotiable." The man fled, cradling his twisted wrist, practically running out the door. The cafe slowly returned to its previous rhythm, conversations resuming cautiously, the server reappearing with fresh tea. Leon turned back to Aisha as if absolutely nothing had happened, his expression softening slightly but not entirely. "Sorry about that interruption. Where were we?" Aisha's heart hammered so violently against her ribs she thought they might crack. She'd just watched him switch from charming suitor to dangerous predator and back again in literal seconds. It should terrify her completely. It did terrify her. But it also confirmed something she'd been trying desperately to deny since last night. He was exactly as dangerous as everyone said, maybe more so. And somehow, impossibly, that made him more compelling, not less. "This is your world," she said quietly, surprised her voice worked at all. "Violence, threats, people who want to hurt you or challenge you every single day. Yes. And you're asking me to step into it, to willingly walk into danger. I'm asking you to let me step into yours." He reached across the table, stopped just short of touching her hand. "I won't lie to you, Aisha. My life is complicated and dangerous and messy. But it's also the only life I have, and for reasons I can't fully explain even to myself, I want to share parts of it with you. Not the violence, not the darkness, the parts that are just a man wanting to know an interesting woman who intrigues him." Aisha looked at his hand, so close to hers she could feel the heat radiating from his skin. One touch, and something fundamental would change. Some invisible line would be crossed that couldn't be uncrossed. She thought about her aunt's church, about Elder Park's presumptuous interest in wandering eyes, about the prayer mat in her apartment where she begged God to make her life simpler, safer, smaller, more manageable. But she'd never been good at choosing safe. That's why she'd left Lagos after her parents died, why she'd stayed in Seoul illegally when her visa expired, why she worked jobs her family would be utterly ashamed of if they knew. Maybe she'd been unconsciously running toward this exact moment all along, toward a choice that was entirely hers, made without her aunt's approval or God's clear direction or any safety net whatsoever. She put her hand in his, Leon's fingers closed around hers, warm and certain and possessive. His smile was slow, victorious, genuinely pleased in a way that transformed his entire face. "Thank you for being brave." "One dinner," Aisha said, her voice stronger than she felt inside. "One single chance to prove you're more than what people say you are. But Leon, if you lie to me even once, I'm gone. I don't care about the visa or the help. I'll figure it out myself somehow." "One dinner," he agreed, his thumb tracing a small, deliberate circle on her palm that sent electricity racing up her entire arm. "That's all I'm asking for right now." "When?" "Tomorrow night. I'll pick you up at 7. "You don't know where I live." His smile was gentle, almost apologetic. "Aisha, I've known where you live since 6 this morning, but if it makes you feel better, more in control, I'll wait outside the hotel instead. Less invasive that way." She should be furious about that, about the surveillance, the complete invasion of privacy. But anger seemed pointless when dealing with a man who could probably find out her blood type and childhood traumas if he wanted to. "The hotel is fine," she heard herself say. They sat there, hands joined across the small table, while Seoul hummed its endless song around them. Her phone buzzed insistently in her purse, probably her aunt with another message about Elder Park or Sunday service, but Aisha ignored it completely. For the first time in months, maybe years, she was making a choice that was entirely hers. Dangerous, possibly catastrophically terrible, but absolutely hers. "I should get back to work," she finally said, though she made no move to pull her hand away from his. "Your break isn't over for another 20 minutes. "I know, but if I stay here much longer, I might change my mind about tomorrow." "Would that be such a terrible thing?" His eyes held hers, intense but not unkind. "Changing your mind, I mean." "I don't know yet. That's exactly what scares me most." Leon stood, helped her up with old-fashioned courtesy that seemed completely at odds with the violence she'd just witnessed. "Fear isn't always bad, Aisha. Sometimes it means you're about to do something genuinely brave. Or something catastrophically stupid. Sometimes those are exactly the same thing." He released her hand with obvious reluctance. "Tomorrow, 7. I promise you won't regret it." Aisha walked out of the cafe into Seoul's harsh afternoon sun, her hand still tingling where he'd touched her, where his skin had pressed against hers. She had absolutely no idea if she was making the right choice or the worst mistake of her entire life. All she knew was that Leon Kang had looked at her like she actually mattered, had offered to fix the problem that kept her awake at night, had given her the option to refuse even while making it abundantly clear he didn't want her to. And for a woman who'd spent her entire life being told who to be and what to want and how to behave, that kind of dangerous freedom felt like the most honest thing she'd ever encountered. Her phone buzzed. "Leon. Thank you for being brave today." She typed back, "Thank you for not making me regret it yet." His response came immediately. "Yet. I like that you're keeping your options open. Smart woman." Aisha smiled despite herself, tucked her phone away, and headed back to the Grand Seoul. Tomorrow she had a date with Seoul's most dangerous man. Tomorrow her carefully constructed life might come crashing down around her. Tomorrow, everything could change in ways she couldn't predict or control. But today, right now, she'd made a choice that was entirely hers. And that felt like real power. If you made it this far, you absolutely need to hit that subscribe button right now, because Aisha's story is just beginning, and it's about to get wild. Will she survive in Leon Kang's dangerous world? Will her aunt discover all her secrets? Will one dinner turn into something neither of them can control or walk away from? Drop a comment telling me what you think happens next, and don't forget to smash that like button. Part 2 is coming very soon, and trust me, you don't want to miss what happens when Seoul's most dangerous man decides he's never letting her go. Subscribe and turn on notifications right now.